an amazing discussion. And for those who watch our films, we also hope that you enjoyed the films we showed you. And of course, don't forget to and share your thoughts with us on social media. Remember to use our hashtags, hashtag Generations in Dialogue and hashtag Faith and Diplomacy.
And we are now again in our living room as we are joined by another amazing guest, Mr. Marcelo Leites, the Secretary General of the World Student Christian Federation and a former member of the RFP International Youth Committee. So welcome to the studio, Marcelo.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being with us. And can you tell us more about your organization and your work?
Yes, of course. Thank you for the invitation. I work for the World Student Christian Federation. It's one of the oldest ecumenical organizations worldwide. We work with 90 countries around the world, 107 movements, student Christian movements. And we work on justice and advocacy process with these groups and capacity building, mainly in climate change, gender justice, peace building, higher education. We are a very a community of students that work for justice, I would say, as best definition.
Thank you for sharing the work that you've been doing. We know you've been elected as Secretary General last year.
Yeah.
And before that, you were a member of the RFP International Youth Committee. As a former member of the IYC, what are your thoughts now that Religions for Peace organize a conference that focuses on intergenerational dialogue?
Well, thank you for the question. I think this is a very good opportunity for young people. I have been a member of the IYC during 6 years, and my work, my previous work was also working with youth in Latin America and the Caribbean. So I always said that the best way to express our struggles, contradictions, our fights toward a path of justice is between generations. It's not longer possible to have two different lines, one related to senior leaders working in a more hierarchical way, and then you have youth department or youth group working in other kind of things that sometimes are related, but sometimes it's very difficult to express those or merge those different paths. So this is the way on how youth could be not only trained, but also express their voices, be part of decision-making processes, and to have a very fresh view on the current world we are facing right now.
Indeed, that's actually very important.
Yeah.
Thank you for your answer. And we have one more question for you, because you have been working with young people. And what are your thoughts that the youth are no longer leaning towards traditional religions and are more engaged in this modern new forms or even extremism and belief? What can we do to address this? And how can multi-religious collaboration or generations in dialogue actually support this process?
Yeah, this is a very, very key question. I think that this is a symptom of our time. We are living in a world that perhaps have failed to young people on the vision toward the future, a lack of hope, a lack of a lot of uncertainties. And imagine that this is happening since years ago. And COVID-19 is it's something that has exacerbated these things. So it's not only related to religious or young attending, being part of religions, but it's more general. So I think that religions, especially young people, religious young people, should address this topic in a very creative way, because it is true that worldwide we are seeing this kind of movement that are increasing and are growing more extremist with a discourse and a hate speech, anti-vaccine speech, anti-science speech. So young people is finding in these speeches something new. Something new means that there is some hope perhaps in this, but it's actually not true. I mean, we can see in Europe, in Latin America, in the Global South, that these extremist groups are growing. So what we can do, what we can say different, what is the new normal or what is the new world possible for them in order to achieve or to refresh the hope in a new world. So I think that we need to be creative. We need to use the tools that are in at our disposition right now, not only social media, but also to think carefully what we want to do for the future and what are the hopes we want to, what are the message of hope we want to transmit to them.
Great. Well, we've been talking a lot about the youth, the work that you've been doing. Let me just go back to the time that you were an IYC member. You were with us for 6 years. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us what changes, what were the highlights of RFP during that time that you were an IYC member, and what are you looking forward to, or your hopes for RFP in the future?
Yeah. Well, when I was part of the IYC, we focus mainly. Firstly, we focus on the campaigns Arms Down. But when I started, it was more related, or we changed the focus on climate change. So this is very important for, I think, for everyone right now. And no matter if you are a person who are religious or not, climate is threatening our future, especially the future of the younger generation. So we always talk about intergenerational justice. So I think that I would like to see in the future religious leaders, young people very committed with this topic. Not only related to the mitigation or adaptation to climate change, but something that is very important to address is human rights, gender violence related to climate, migrations and climate, and a new economic system. Because this is not only related to climate, it's also related to our current economic system. So I would like to see very much how young people could be involved in this transformative process in a very deep way.
Indeed, yes.
So just let me stay a little bit more on the IYC. And as you said, like young people need to be more involved in these processes. So can you tell us why should somebody become a member of the IYC, like as a message for those people out there, young people who are part of the RFP movement, but also broader?
For many reasons. One of the things I believe is religions and I would say, for example, in my tradition, churches, but synagogues, mosques, are everywhere. We are the most important, I would say, enterprise worldwide because we are everywhere, right? And we can outreach a lot of people. We can change minds. We can come to them and to deliver a transformative message, not a message of blaming or guilt. We need to overcome this kind of message, and we need to realize that people need, as I mentioned before, other kind of hopes in a world that is very challenging right now. So I think that religions could be a place to be transformative. So people who believe, people who have belief should join us because we can change the world together. Don't stay away from us, because if you want to change, even if you want to change your own religion, your own institution, you should be there and be part of the change.
Well, you've been talking about the transformative change message that we can all bring, and you're talking what we can all do, especially when we come together. So what do you think is the unique role that the youth can play when it comes to faith and diplomacy?
Well, I have been working in the last 6 years because of my organization in the United Nations Conference on Climate, the COPs. Even each time I have seen more countries, states that send youth delegates as part of their official delegation. And it's amazing how they change differently to the oldest generation. So this is something that we need to acknowledge. Youth is not only related to mobilization or to organize an event, this classical role that we have assigned to the youth. They are professionals, they are students, they have different disciplines, so they can come with professionalism and change things in terms of taking decisions, being part of a broader conversation about the future.
Yes, yes. Just a follow-up question on that. How is this happening now in South America?
Well, in terms of youth participating in spaces, well, it's Latin America. We live in a very challenging time in Latin America, and we have been working very hard on the topic on democracy, human rights, and the role of the extremism. So right now, as already mentioned before, there are a lot of people, young people, who are believing, who are putting their hopes in this new form of extremism. So our work is to change that path, to change that speech. We face a very difficult situation, and we need to challenge not only religious leaders, but also governments, because we need those young people working for new forms of justice, and not only staying there in their home without, especially in the pandemic time, without nothing to do. Presentiality is key right now. Lockdowns have been done a lot of, I agree with all the measures that we have been taking in Latin America, of course, but now it's time to refresh the way how youth participation can change things around.
Yes, wonderful.
So connected to that, can you tell us what is your message to the young people who are with us here today on the Zoom or here in the Inselhalle?
Yeah, of course. I think that I have already said something, but I think that the best young people can do right now is to be engaged. If you are not a believer, please engage in a movement, a social movement, thinking in the indigenous people, in the climate change, in the gender justice. Get involved with your community struggles. If you are a believer, please go to your church, to your mosque, talk with your religious leader, say what you want, organize yourself, plan yourself, strategize. It's not only about demonstration, which is very good. You need to be in the street also, but you need to strategize and find the goals you want to achieve.
Yes, that's wonderful. And I think really the youth needs to be more engaged now, as you have mentioned. Which brings me now, we're about to end this conference. So what will you bring back to Buenos Aires after your trip here in Lindau? How did this conference influence your view of the world or even the work that you'll be doing?
Yeah, well, firstly, to say that this is an attempt to put together young people, religious leaders, diplomats. This is very key not only in terms of what we have learned from the panelists, the conversation, but what we can also try in our own context. For example, this idea to organize something with our local councillors, for example, or parliamentarian people. So this is something that we should learn how to do. And this space show a way on how we can, for example, organize smaller things, perhaps, in our local community. So I will bring with me some challenges. For example, how I can organize in our own organization this kind of conversation with congressman or congresswoman, right? This will be something I would like to do in my own context, yes.
Thank you so much
Thank
for this.
you.
And again, thank you, Marcelo. I know this was a sudden interview with you, but thank you for joining us in the studio.
Thank you very much.
Of course, having Marcelo here with us is really to help inspire young people, especially by sharing the work that he has done, especially in the many advocacies that he has been working for. It is actually wonderful that we have many individuals, a wide range of people in our studio, from diplomats, from religious leaders, and now to young people. You can really see that these different generations across the world are engaged in this intergenerational dialogue.
So, as we know, we are located in Lindau, and it's an honor that we can be here, and we would like to show you once again the Linda video, image of the city. And you can actually consider visiting this beautiful city in a couple of months. And we have nice weather. So, video. So, we are now joined with Christian Rapp of the Ring for Peace press team, and they conducted a study in the name of Ring for Peace, and we are so happy to hear about the results and its implication. So welcome, Christian.
Thank you.
And I think you brought a short presentation with you for us, aren't you?
Yes, I brought a short presentation. Before I dig into the numbers, maybe I explain what the study is about and where we did it. So that's an
tell us.
online study we did within Germany. So the results are only representative for the German population. We asked about 2,000 people in Germany, an online panel, an online survey, and worked together with YouGov. You might have heard them from other surveys you read in the newspaper. And since we asked 2,000 people in Germany, we were able to dig a bit deeper into the numbers, so we can look into how the younger generation thinks about religions, how the older generation thinks about it. And we were even able to distinguish results between the different regions in Germany, which is maybe not as interesting for you as an international audience, but for us as a German institution, the Ring for Peace Foundation, it was interesting to do that kind of research prior to this meeting, to really find out how Germans think about religions and where they actually see the benefit how religions contribute to the good things in the world. So this conference is all about a generation of dialogue, other way around, a dialogue of generations. And you talk about climate change, diplomacy, all these kinds of things. So we tried to break that actually down into some questions and tried to figure out, so how do Germans actually think about these topics? And maybe we can show the first slide now, and I can talk a bit about that. Yeah, should I just proceed? Okay.
Tell us.
So we had a couple of questions. I just brought, I think, 4 or 5 results with me, so we don't have like the whole afternoon here to speak about it. So for young respondents, the environmental issue and sustainability have a significantly higher priority than just the economic order. So we asked people, how important do you think the following topics are for you personally? And there you can really see that is the topics that we also talk about here on the conference with the young generation. Things like environment, sustainability, global justice that get like the highest numbers within the younger generation. So we grouped these people into 3 generations, so to say, 18 to 29, 30 to 54, and then older than 54. And although the results you can see here are maybe only like 3 or 4% higher than the other groups, still, I think it's very consistent to see, and it's very nice to see actually, that the younger generation always rates these kinds of things higher than the other generation. So this was something we found quite interesting. And if you now go to the next slide, maybe we can have another one. So here we asked people to identify themselves in terms of how religious are you. So they were able to say, I'm very religious, I'm not religious at all, I'm quite religious. And then we connected these data points with other questions. And also here, I think the interesting result is that no matter who you ask, religious people who feel not religious or quite religious, they all have kind of the same priority, what we should tackle as a global community. So this is the ecosystems, and then you see the other ones. And I think that's also a nice result, actually, and we didn't expect that. You know, you would usually maybe say, okay, maybe people who feel very religious have another priority in certain questions, like at least for these kind of topics, than other people. But I think that's a very important result also, that the discussions we are having here in Lindau, they are kind of representative also for people outside our communities.
Absolutely.
So that is something very nice. So maybe we take the next one.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to ask you, is there any difference between religious and non-religious people? And you actually answered. So it's good that we are striving towards the same priorities.
Absolutely.
This is good. This is very good information for us. But please continue. Tell us something about this slide. Please.
So in another question, we took some of the big issues that politics, all kinds of institutions are handling right now. Things like the fight against poverty, peace, justice, equality, the fight against climate change. And then we asked, how do religions contribute to these issues? More positively, more negatively. And here you can see that most of the people would say that religions have a rather positive influence and contribution for within the fight against poverty, for peace, which is, I mean, it's in the name of these organizations here, so people see that actually, and things like justice and equality. And I just would like to say again, this is for Germans. So we asked the Germans, and maybe another thing, I haven't put that on the slide, but if you ask Germans what religions means to them, I think that's also reflected in the results here, they will say it's not so much like an organization, an actor, somebody that is like taking action, but an institution giving orientation, orientation. I think that was the thing people said. So I think this is somehow also reflected in these results here, since things like justice, equality, they are not the very concrete things you tackle. It's more like it's more than that. It's like an overarching topic for many issues that you need to talk about.
Actually, my question is also related. You did a study. So is there a public opinion on how religions should be involved in discussions about Corona? Did you tackle that, or do you have any information about this?
I think we also have a slide for this. If you go to the next one, yeah, there it is.
Oh,
so
great.
you asked the right question.
Right in time. That's the right question for the right slide. Yeah.
We actually asked 2 questions. You see the bigger circle is about if religions should engage in ensuring that the distribution of vaccines is just. And the smaller circle is religions should do more to help convince people who are skeptical about vaccination against COVID-19 to get vaccinated. In both terms, you can see a lot of people say, yes, religions should support these issues and should stand for this. But more people say the distribution of vaccines is something religions should be engaged with, rather than convincing the skeptical people. Also there, I can't see the number from here, but it seems like 40% or something. And the bigger the distribution of vaccines, it's like more than 50, where people said that's something where religions should really engage. And I think, again, it reconnects to the topics of the conference, even of today. I think it's today that we have the debate about this.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
just right of this. Yeah.
So that's a nice run-up, maybe, to the discussion we have later today.
Yes, but you're still not free. I still have some questions for you.
Okay.
So what kind of other implications can we take from this survey? So is there something that we can...
I would say, if you look, like we only have talked about like 4 or 5 questions, but if you took a look at the whole study, you can say 2 things. Young people are much more positive about religions than the older generations.
Wow.
That's something we
That's
have seen in the numbers.
Very interesting.
For Germany. And also, if you ask people how religions contribute to some of the issues, like the fight for poverty and or against poverty, climate change, all these kinds of things. If you then look at the numbers, you can see that younger people always rate religions a bit positiver, more positive than the other generations. So I think, especially among young people, there is a kind of a positive attitude towards religions, and I think that's why it's also so nice to have so many young people represented here in Lindau for the conference. And it just shows that these topics really resonate with young people, and it's important to engage them actually and give them a voice in these discussions.
Thank you for saying that, because this is something, as you said, what we are trying to do here. It's generations in dialogue. But was there something surprising for you as the one who was responsible for the study, some findings, something you've, I don't know, some results that was surprising?
I would say that was really the point that, especially among young people, there is a positive attitude towards religions. I think if you read the newspapers, if you watch news, the thinking might be, especially the young people, they are lost for religions. And if you see these results, you can say you need to dig deeper, and the data shows you a bit different picture. And especially if you compare to other generations, there is a lot of good things actually happening with the young generations and religions.
Thank you very much for answering this question and all the other questions. Thank you for being with us and for introducing us to the results of the study, which is super important and very much connected with what's coming now. And now we are here for an exciting part of the conference, the debate. It's going to feature young people of Religions for Peace. We actually asked friends to run to the studio there to check the preparations and also to introduce us there. So are we having rents? Are the youth debates ready?
Hello, Emina. We're
Hi,
all
Ren.
ready here at the main hall. You can already feel the energy of the youth as they prepare for the debate. So at this point, we're all waiting for this very excited part of this conference. So allow me now to call on the stage the moderator for this debate, who will make sure that our youth debaters will not be fighting, our Secretary General, Professor Aza Karam. Professor Karam, the stage is yours.
Right. Thank you very much indeed. Now comes further excitement and discussion. Can you please join me, first of all, very quickly, as we begin this debate in a moment of shared meditative silence.
You'll start.
And we're now back in our studio. That was really an interesting, energetic, and intense debate. I like how our debaters were able to present their arguments with regards to whether religious actors were uniquely helpful during the pandemic or not. So, Emina, let's look back on our day, on the day 3 of this conference. So, do you have any takeaways from today?
It was full day. It was a lot of topics. I'm especially glad that we discussed environment and religion. This is something I'm really passionate about, and I think it's super important that we discuss it in the light of the intergenerational and interreligious dialogue. So Heart Talk was really amazing. Lightning talks by young people who were giving the lightning talks. This was very, very refreshing. 3 young ladies who were speaking, and of course there was our colleague Christian Lupemba, but we had those 3 amazing ladies here on the stage, and that was really amazing. And of course the debate that just took place, was very intense. It was very, a lot of action, a lot of passion put into it. All the speakers were very, inside their roles, and I really congratulate our colleagues from the International Youth Committee and also from our networks, national networks of Religions for Peace, for the tremendous work they've done and for actually very thoroughly defending their positions in the debate.
Exactly. I'm actually very impressed with how they presented those arguments, provided evidences to support those arguments. And it was actually my favorite part of this day. And my takeaway is this: we really hold our religious leaders in a high position. And I think by the same point, we need to hold them really accountable to that kind of prestige and position that we have given them. And what are you looking forward to the closing for tomorrow?
Well, I'm looking forward that we are looking forward for another discussions that we are going to have and the press conference that will actually be the closing event of our conference. But also, I'm really looking forward that we are going to, take something from here and really put in action all of what we talked here. When we come to our home, to our communities, that we will take the experiences that we actually got from people that we met here, with whom we spoke, whom we actually had the opportunity to listen to, and implement some of these things that are possible to implement, of course, in our communities, because not everything fits everywhere. And I think this is basically the richness of the approach that we have here: intergenerational, interreligious, and also international experience, because we can actually grasp from people who are coming from the context that might be similar to ours and might actually help us in improving our work home. So I'm really looking forward to that, and I really hope that all the participants here will be implementing in action all the words that were spoken here.
Wonderful. Well, my hope is that we go beyond the conversations, the discussions, and the debate that we're having in this conference. And moving forward is that we really have concrete actions from the resolutions or the discussions that we have had in this conference. So just a reminder to all of our viewers online, please remember that we have our greeting platform. So if you have not yet shared your video, your greeting, your message to everyone who is participating in this conference, the link is being shown to you, will be shown to you now on your screens. So remember to visit our greeting platform, share your messages, record yourself, greet everyone. And we know, although you are not with us today, it would make us feel that you are all with us. And of course, remember also to visit our virtual foyer, wherein you can engage and discuss with all the participants who are both physically here at the Inselhalle and those participating also virtually. Allow yourself also in the virtual foyer to experience generations in dialogue. We'd really love to hear your voices also in that platform. And lastly, of course, if you missed some of the sessions, even our discussions and interview here at the studio, you can also view our videos at the media library. So if you're just joining us now and would like to go back on the day's discussions, you can check the videos in our virtual library. Or if you just want to go back to the discussions we had in the past days, they would always be there for you to see them. So we're about to end our day, but one thing unique also for the day 3 of the conference is that we still have one session left. And it is actually a special session on the emerging issues in collaboration between religious actors and diplomats about the lessons that we have learned from Afghanistan and beyond.
So be ready to make a screenshot as we are going to show you now the link to this event.
The event is led and moderated by Professor Aza Karam and Lord Dan Brennan, QC. Mina?
So I think we are actually ready for today. I think we are finishing. I think this was a really long day for us, friends.
It was a very
Wasn't it?
long day for
Yeah.
all of us, and I hope that all of you really stay tuned with us. See you tomorrow at 8:30 in the morning, Central European Summer Time, for the last day of the conference. Thanks, of course, for watching. Of course, we won't let you end this day without one last surprise.
So we have a very nice, cute video for you from 800 kids performing the Sun Poem, inspired by We All See the Stars by John Ciambrello.
And of course, this performance reminds us that these children will inherit the world, and they will inherit it in the way that we hand it over to them.
Really, indeed. For me, it has a message of hope, peace, and unity. It is sung by children. It can be a powerful way to open hearts and minds to see the common humanity we actually all share. So, we go to the video.
Enjoy the video.
Action.